I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Dr. Bones, listening to Dr. Bones.
Good afternoon, this is Dr. Bones Live, and it's Saturday about 2:30 in the afternoon, which means it's time for...
And now it's time for another episode of Blogger's Corner with Britt.
Blogger's Corner. Welcome, Britt, back to the show. How are you, Britt?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Very well, thank you. Well, like I told you off air, I just finished watching the new Arrow, and you know what? This one was a bit more interesting. Now they're kind of making it cool. We'll call it cool again because of everything's being explained a little bit more, and now kind of people are catching on. I mean, they still got to do the flashback. I can understand the flashback to the island, but even though it kind of has its point, it's still like a little boring. But I can see how they tied the two in because obviously Laurel finally figures out that Oliver is the Arrow for one, and then I think it was really smooth how she because what happened was peeling what happened last week. And sorry, I'm gonna have to ruin it for you, but Moira was killed by Slade, and Laurel pretty much had a good idea that he did, and she had his computer bugged, which was really smart. And the fact that they found the timestamp saying that he already knew that it was going to happen, so Slade killed Moira pretty much because of him. So that made it interesting. I still don't like the fact, but you were right. The woman who took over Queen's Consolidation, or whatever it's called, the Queen Corp, is back because obviously the Mirror Crew. So I was hoping she wouldn't be, but she yeah, exactly. So she came back and sees Thea's club, and he told Thea to leave, and just everything kind of lined up kind of well, and he knew it was going to happen little bit by little bit. But now the fact that there's this massive army, and there's no way they're going to be able to stop all these guys in Mirror Crew. It's impossible. Looks like they're going to have to start recruiting like outside help again.
Yeah.
So I'm helping. What's his name? Death Shot, and those guys will be back, and because they're really going to need all hands on deck, and this could be it's going to be a huge battle. So I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it getting ratcheted back up with a battle. I did like when Oliver said that it started with him, Diggle, and Felicity, and something to the fact that I guess it was going to end that way. So I was excited to get back to that core three because with Roy and Sarah getting involved, they kind of lost that core dynamic between them. Yeah, so I'm excited to see it. It was better than I expected, but there was something still missing for me. Obviously, I was happy Sarah was gone. But Laurel, I was kind of iffy. I was kind of iffy about having yet another person learn about Oliver and his secret identity, and now Laurel knows. They handled that better than I expected, so I think it will turn out being better than everyone else who's known about it.
No, very true. The other thing too, I thought there was kind of interesting, but they didn't play it up too much. But they are bringing Felicity and Oliver closer together.
Yeah,
because
I'm excited about that.
Remember, just before he left, of course, you're just waiting for that the quote unquote look, right? But he took off before it could happen, and they were holding hands. Not that that means anything, because I mean it's something that's kind of normal. So, but everything else kind of leading up to it and after he left pretty much made sense that they're working on that. But then, of course, at the end, Laurel just happens to be there, and of course, thinking, why are you there? It's like they always come in the stupid instances, to kind of play the say the damsel in distress sort of thing, and
yes.
But the flashback where there's too many. Oh, we can't fight them, and then of course what happened when he and the other guy were trying to get the submarine going. They left Sarah and said, "We'll come back and get you if we get this working. If not, I want you to live." And of course, what happens? Hey, on sub, Sarah, Sarah, Ollie. All right, we did it. Okay.
Yeah, yay!
so, like, I mean, that's like, I understand the point of the flashback, trying to make it more of a dramatic effect, but it's like, you didn't really make that much of a dramatic effect. It's like, oh, it's the same story, just with her sister on an island.
Exactly. I really hope that next season, I read an interview with the showrunner, and he talked about how he wanted each season to have this different feel to it. I really hope the third season is the season where we say goodbye to the island flashbacks. For me, sometimes they work, but it's been more missed than it's been hit, and it's really counterproductive to the main storyline where we do not know the stakes. We do not know if, who's going to make it. And on the island, we know. So it's just really, if there's one character they need to spotlight that is going to be playing a big role in the Starling City arc, then flashback to the island. But otherwise, I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there's only so much they can chalk up to the island, right? So, I mean, there's got to be an end at some point.
Absolutely. And I hope that next season is not the season where they introduce Arrow's son. I did read a very funny... we don't know if it's his son, but if it was his son, if he's a son, then I read someone on a comment, I think it was on Entertainment Weekly's page, who said that since he's Arrow, then his son would be named Dart. I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, there was one of those like, I wasn't expecting it, so I laughed. But I think that it will be interesting to kind of focus on streamlining the love triangles, because Oliver has had so many ladies, and I'm cool with that, but at the same token, Sarah and him, that was a complete waste. I didn't see why Oliver and her got back together and all that stuff. Focusing on Laurel and Felicity, kind of, saying this is a past relationship and a past love, and Felicity's kind of offering him this, unpredictable future. That's kind of where I would like to see the triangle rest.
No, I agree. No, that's a really good point. But it's one of those things, like whether it's based off a comic or not. Shows like this, there's got to be some sort of love interest and problem, like and girl likes guy likes other girl, yada yada yada. Same. So the triangle is going to go on, but it's just a matter of keeping it interesting is the biggest thing.
Definitely. And something I did like about this season was that they showed Bart, who will eventually become the Flash, he showed an interest in Felicity, and I think Felicity is an awesome enough person that she would have, she wouldn't be having all this unrequited love. Someone would be competing with Oliver for her affection.
Absolutely. No, for sure. So I think next week is the finale, is it not?
It is.
Well, hopefully it's a good one, because obviously we'll be talking about it.
Definitely. I have to say, I really did feel Maura not being a part of the show this episode. It just she brought so much to it. I don't really know how it's going to be next season, unless they really bring in Merlin back to be a heavy player, which I hope happens. See,
I kind of think they are, because Thea's not going anywhere. Thea's going to be on next season as well.
Correct.
So with that being said, I know they want to bring Merlin back, because most likely they're going to need his help in this huge battle.
Absolutely. And sometimes you have to make a deal. I guess they're kind of playing with the deal with the devil kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's one of these situations is like it's been done a fair bit. So it's always at some point or another, good and bad have to join up and just kick some ass of a worse evil. So and again, it's one of those scenarios like can work very well. Granted, you did it the right way.
Exactly. Yes, and I do feel like it is kind of repeating itself a little bit. I mean, I know the whole soap opera, superhero genre kind of repeats itself, but the thing, like with Summer Glau's character coming in, who was the woman who took over Oliver's company, the actress plays her, that was so reminiscent of The Last Dark Knight, where Marion Cotillard's character takes over Bruce Wayne's business. You could kind of see that coming a mile away.
Right. Yeah, I know. It was pretty. Yeah, it was pretty evident. Even from the time you first slept with her, you kind of knew she was going to be playing some sort of role.
Yes.
But the one more thing about this episode, and No, you gotta love where they pop in those like cheesy lines, and they're meant to be like kind of like, either hard hitting or just like really cool, but they just kind of most of the time fall flat. When just near the very end, where Diggle's lying on the ground, and she's back. Remember you killed me? Well, now I'm gonna kill you. Ooh, yeah.
Bam!
Oh, yeah, exactly. I I haven't heard that like a million times. But then,
Yeah, that was a little cliche.
but then it can be funny if done correctly. And the movie I'm thinking of is The Princess Bride, where my name is Amigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Yes, that
So-
is very true.
See, but that was funny. You repeated it a few times.
Yeah, that was much funnier than this. This kind of came across a little bit cliche, but
Yeah.
it was nice to see Diggle back in action, finally doing, being able to do some stuff.
Yeah, and I think it was funny when Felicity's like, "Wow, I've never seen one of these. Can I touch it? That's classified."
Yes, I love her goofy awkwardness.
So I mean, there was a little bit of comic relief here and there. So that was I got a good chuckle out of that. But yeah, all in all, that was actually a very decent episode. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're gonna do, how they're gonna finish this up, and kind of leave us on the edge of the cliff till the next season starts.
Definitely. What is the one thing that you would like to see happen in the season finale?
Good question. You know what? I haven't really given it a lot of thought. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to think of where they left off and how they're gonna continue on with this, like what they're gonna do, and I'm not quite sure yet because there's a lot of avenues they could take. It just I'm not sure which one I kind of want them to go with.
Gotcha.
When I probably like obviously after next week. Next week when we talk about the finale. Maybe then I'll have a better idea before I get to that. Like, I mean, if I think of one during the week, I'll post it for you. But at this point, like, I'm not sure. Like, I kind of want to see like a good hard fought out battle. But I don't know what kind of battle I want because I can just picture it happening already. Since they hit the charge and it blew that whole like brick slab. And what's going to happen is 5 minutes will go by, these other guys will be coming, they'll kind of break free of the rock, and it just depends on where they go from there.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I definitely think the rock thing will probably get dealt with pretty quickly, or at least I hope so.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it's one of those things, they're like, it's finally over. Finally over. Uh-oh.
That would not be good.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just run away. Like so. But yeah, so I mean that's where I can see it starting out with, but where they're gonna go from there, I don't know, and I can't really think of what would actually make that scene a little bit cooler and kind of less cliche, because that's another one. That's another one you see a lot, right? You think it's over, but it's not over. I mean, that's part of a suspense that we've all gotten used to, so it's not really suspenseful anymore. You just want to know what they're gonna do.
Exactly. I'm gonna predict that he'll shoot an arrow and it'll anchor into the some ceiling or whatever, and they'll repel out.
Well, no, that's a good point. I mean, I can see it happening. And the other thing is like I think that they've found the cure because they left that dead because they showed Felicity on the phone with the laboratories, but that's all. This is not a good time, and they cut away. So I think that a possible cure's been found. So I'm sure that's going to come into play as well.
I definitely hope so we can get rid of Royding Roy.
Yeah, well, who knows? The other thing, actually, speaking of Roy, I'm not sure what they're going to be doing with him, but since Thea's not dead, there's a possibility she could end up being Speedy.
Oh.
Like, I don't know how big a possibility, but if they're keeping her alive and keeping her in the show, then there's another possibility right there. Or it could just be a ploy to kind of keep people guessing back and forth, and and ultimately they'll go with Roy instead of Thea. I don't know, but like it's a possibility.
Definitely. And did you notice that in the trailer for next week's episode, they showed Laurel picking up the arrow and using it? And since Laurel originally was the Black Canary, it's kind of hinting that she still might be.
Actually, you know what? I actually didn't see the trailer for next week.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How could you?
Spoiler alert!
Yeah. No, that's fine. No, that's cool though. I think that should be interesting and see how that plans out because you never know. I mean, that's what they could be leading to as well. At least in this instance, they're giving people stuff to think about, and that's what they want. That's what you want to do. I mean, because it's obviously just despite being based off the comic, they got to keep people interested and thinking of what's going to go on next. Some stuff just inevitably it's just going to be predictable. There's no way around it. But some other stuff they can kind of play with a little bit. At least when they have two people are more involved, they can keep you guessing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It is fun to think about and speculate on, and they've left some things open to interpretation. I definitely do hope though that Father Lance gets out of his patrol outfit and able to be the cop that I think he always gets close to being, but then something happens and it throws him a million steps back.
Yeah, no, good point. So we'll kind of hope for the best and see what happens next week. But otherwise said, all in all, it was actually a pretty decent episode.
I agree.
So next up, just a little bit of rock and roll news, and one of them is about Paul Gray, who is the bassist for a band called Slipknot. And Slipknot, by the way, if people don't know, are on the top of my favorite bands. Like, absolutely love them. And I got a chance to see them, so I think I got a chance to see him before Paul Gray passed away a few years back. And he pretty much, it was an overdose on medication. So whether it was actually a suicide or not, there's still they're kind of saying it is, but they're not, because the doctor that actually prescribed him medication was not convicted of manslaughter charges, because that's what they had him, involuntary manslaughter, because that's what they had him on initially, just because the pills he was prescribing Paul were stuff that the doctor knew that Paul was very addicted to. So they was kind of sort of like the Michael Jackson thing. He overprescribed it. This thing he prescribed a few things, but even though he's not getting nailed for that, he still has a bunch of other charges against him, a bunch of malpractice suits, including some related to patients who were all at the center of their criminal trial. So, yeah, this is not a good doctor or a good guy by any means. So, that's what's going on. So he still faces these charges, and it pretty much looks towards he's going to be convicted and put away for a long time. Because, I mean, even if you didn't get charged for involuntary manslaughter, no, you don't feed an addict what they need,
Exactly.
Yeah,
how long did Conrad Murray go away for?
Honestly, I'm not sure on the top of my head.
All right, was he charged with the same thing?
Initially, yeah, he was in charge with involuntary manslaughter. But I can't, honestly, right now, I can't remember the details, and I don't want to start talking about it because I don't know too much about it, so I don't want to say anything wrong about it, but he was put away. I can't remember what the exact charges were that they were finally came to, but I know he was put away for a good long time, that's for sure.
Yeah. And
it's one of those things where it's maybe 25 to life with no possibility of parole for maybe 10 years or something like that.
All right. Well, stiff penalty.
So, but next week I'll look into it more and give more details. But that's where I'm at right now. Like I said, I don't know too much about it, so I don't want to speak too much on it since I don't want to be pulling stuff out of the air. So
totally understandable.
But the other thing was our good old friend Courtney Love was in the news again. And now it's because she wrote apology letters to Bruce Springsteen because she made a comment about saying saxophones don't belong in rock and roll, and she went on a little tirade. I mean, it wasn't one of the worst ones she's ever done, and we'll call it one of the better ones.
Okay.
So yeah, she wrote apology letters because she put this video it's not up anymore, and it just said what she was saying it doesn't belong in rock and roll, Bruce Springsteen, blah, blah, and in this article, this Rolling Stone article, and she goes on to say, I should be more nice to people who actually like me. He's like, you just think about that now. Going from there, she also talked briefly about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. So it's, she ran into Dave Grohl. Talked to Dave Grohl because they hadn't really spoken for about 20 years, pretty much since the suicide. They didn't speak at the funeral, and because pretty much she's considered by many people this generation's Yoko Ono, which I more than wholeheartedly agree with that. So, and she's thinking, well, I got that label, but no, despite all the legal stuff, because there's obviously battles over rights and stuff to the songs and that sort of thing, and just back and forth, trying to stop each other from putting certain stuff out, and it's just ridiculous. So, and I think for now, like, I mean, they're being civil, so they're actually talking, but it blows my mind how something like that happens, and there's so much legal tape involved just because people are fighting over the most ridiculous things, and I should have it because I was his wife. Like, we wrote part of the song, so we're legally entitled, and it's, oh my god. So that's why it took forever for any of the Nirvana stuff to come out, just because of the legal battles and them trying to agree on something and make sure it's good on both sides. So that being said, I'm actually just about done. I was reading the newest biography on Kurt Cobain, and I've talked once a bit about before about their MTV Music Awards appearance.
All right.
So with that, there's a few more facts that I didn't know or I'd forgotten about, and pretty interesting as well. Because initially, during their practice for it, like, this is not the day of the show, but like a few days before, sort of thing, they wanted to play one of their new songs, and the censors wouldn't allow it because the song was called "Rape Me." Fair enough, right? So they did this during soundcheck, and the censors were like, no, we can't do it, blah blah. So they're like, all right, and no, they're like, well, you can play this song, you play this song, and so what happened is like on the initial showing, because like I watched this live because like obviously there's a lot of bands on there I want to see, so 92 is like the grunge phase, like Dana Carvey just coming off a huge movie Wayne's World playing Garth, and he's hosting the MTV Music Awards, and he does his Bush impression, and so it was really really good. The Dana Carvey did awesome as a host, and it was a really funny one, but what happened was when they started off, Kurt Cobain started playing the first few chords to the song "Rape Me," and then just because what happened, let me back up for a minute. The producers were told if they play that song, then you cut them off, put a commercial on. So literally just before they got a chance to put the commercial on, they switched to a different song. But now it says in the book that when the show's replayed, that part's edited out.
Oh, interesting.
Why? I don't know. I mean, that's part of the show. I mean, when you read this, it's like, oh, well, I want to see it, but I remember seeing that firsthand. I mean, I can picture that whole entire show like it was yesterday.
Wow.
So
now, why did they want to perform? They already knew they weren't allowed to perform "Rape Me." What was the point of even playing the opening chords?
To piss off the censors. To play to play with them. It was to play with them. So.
I gotcha.
So I mean, it wasn't like before, where like on the Ed Sullivan Show, two bands actually were asked to change the lyrics. One being the Rolling Stones. Instead of "Let's spend the night together," they had to say "Let's spend some time together," because at the time that wasn't allowed.
Oh, okay.
So when they played the show, I've seen this because I got the best of Ed Sullivan. So.
Nice.
But it's so they show them playing, and it's funny to watch because Mick Jagger is so pissed. Just the look on his face, like he's really mad about this.
Right.
And then, of course, there was the infamous Doors performance where they played "Light My Fire," and they weren't allowed to say "higher" on network television at the time, so they were asked to change it. And of course, being the Doors, they didn't. And they played the entire show, and they went to the right end and did everything they were supposed to do, that they normally do. And a funny story behind that is because first, real quick, Oliver Stone, did a movie called The Doors, and Val Kilmer played Jim Morrison. but it was just way too over exaggerated because when they show the Doors play the performance in the movie, Jim Morrison goes right up to the sound booth. Now, first off, on the set, it's next to impossible because the sound booth is pretty much right tucked away in the back. Just first and foremost. But second off, when they did the performance, it was funny because their guitarist Robbie Krieger was smirking and they're almost pretty much all smiling because they're like loving this. But nothing different was done. They didn't go wild, nothing like that. They played the show like they normally do, and it was over. And on this Best of Ed Sullivan, Ray Manzarek, their keyboardist, was telling the story, and because he said, he came back. The guy came back, said, "Guys, you can't say higher in television, blah blah." And Ray says well, being kind of like the negotiable one's like, yeah, don't worry, we'll take care of it. And then they all look at each other like, oh, we're not going to change it. No, forget it. We're going to keep it as it is. And then they play the show, and afterwards, the guy comes back, one of the reps, and goes, what did you do? Because we told you couldn't say higher network television. He goes, you'll never play the Ed Sullivan Show again. And Morrison looked up at him and said, hey man, we just played the Ed Sullivan Show. so a big subtle smack to the face,
Very nice. Just this past week, it's interesting you mentioned that song because they used that on Dancing with the Stars for Amy Purdy and Derek Hough danced to that for their rumba, and I wasn't paying very close attention. I'm gonna have to go back and see if they cut out the lyric. I wonder if in 2014 they still censored that or changed it up.
No, that's fine. Light My Fire's been played on the air a number of times, and that's not edited out.
Oh, okay. Well, good to know.
Well, because initially what it came down to, the reason why I can picture the censor saying no, because when he says, girl, we couldn't get much higher, I think at that time, since it's pretty much the hippie age, it's like they're promoting drugs and even though it might be a sort of a subliminal hit, which it wasn't, actually had nothing to do with that, but
right.
I'm guessing that's what the censors were thinking.
I gotcha. Yeah, I think after that song Come On Get Higher came out, we're probably all past the whole higher thing.
Yeah, well, exactly. So, and with bands like Cypress Hill, they just, everybody comes completely desensitized.
Exactly. I kind of miss the edginess of the controversy just because there's so few envelopes left to push, and it's kind of, but then with that comes this kind of boringness that something really exciting used to have that punch, of being controversial.
That's exactly right. You know what? I'm just going to finish up with this Courtney Love thing. We'll come back to that because I actually got something more to say on that. So pretty much what it came down to, so they're being civil with each other now. But in the book, like I said, I was talking about the MTV Music Awards show. And what happened was they were backstage, or in the trailer. So they're in the Stars lot. And they go into the building and they're walking down the hall. And they see Axl Rose. And he's with his girlfriend at the time, some model, whatever her name was. It's not important. Anyways, so, Courtney, being the lovely person she is, says, "Hey, Axl," goes, "Do you want to be the godfather of her child?" And he turned around and he told the Kurt, he said, "Hey, you better tell your B word to shut up." And he kind of giggled and turned around and pretty much in kind of a farmer kind of hillbilly said, "Hey, buddy, you better shut your mouth," So rubbing it in his face, and so apparently the model, Axel's girlfriend, goes up to Courtney. She goes, "Are you a model?" And Courtney looks at her and goes, "Are you a rocket scientist?" No, it's like, oh no, as much as I don't like her, that was funny. It's like, I know, hats up to her. That was actually pretty funny.
Yeah, that was a great comeback.
So, needless to say, not that it's very hard to do, but they pissed Axl off. And that led to the show later on, where after they were done on stage, Nirvana's done performing, they just destroyed all their instruments. Dave Grohl ran up to the microphone and said, "Hi, Axl. Hi, Axl. Where's Axl? Hi, Axl." Just kind of rubbing in his face even more. And apparently at one point, nothing happened, but apparently their bassist Duff McKagan went with a few guys and to go see Nirvana and pretty much try to rough them up a little bit. And they went to see they ran to Chris Novoselic, who's their bassist, and Chris is about 6'7". So he's a
Wow.
he's a giant.
Wow, no kidding.
So yeah, nothing really came with that, but that happened backstage. She was like, "Well, this is really cool. This is stuff I didn't know." Like, and there's a few things that I knew about that, but there's a few I didn't know about. So it was like that was like actually really interesting.
That is pretty cool. Some interesting behind the scenes tidbits.
Yeah, so it's actually a really good book. So okay, that's pretty much the wrapping up the rock and roll news. Otherwise, there hasn't been too many funny things except for the Black Keys apparently pranked their management, and I think you can find that on YouTube. It's actually pretty funny, so you can check that out. If not, I'll try to find the link for you and post that. But the other thing is going back to like kind of cliche sort of things and envelopes that are going to be, there's not too many left to be pushed anymore on TV. I think it was probably right around 2000. South Park, haha, actually did pretty much something to kind of point this out, because at the time it wasn't too much longer after, maybe a few years after NYPD Blue came out, and they were able to say "son of a bitch" on TV, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, they can say that. So what South Park did is they got permission. Obviously, they got permission from the TV affiliate and the FCC and yada yada yada, to be able to say a certain word on TV, and it was really very well done. And I know it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so if anybody's want to hear this one S word, I can say it really quick. They were able to say shit. Pardon my French, on network television, and it was on cable network, and it was very funny. And what they did was each time they said it, there was a number. So they had like a counter rolling to see how many times they said it.
Oh.
But it was a big thing because they were watching a TV called Cop Drama, so obviously take off on NYPD Blue, and they were waiting to hear this, and this is like such big news. So everybody's gathering around to watch this. So the guys are at the bar, and there's people everywhere getting ready just to see this one word. And of course, one of the kids, Kyle, is like doesn't see what the big deal is, and they're watching it, and there's one scene comes up. Oh, is that it? Did he say it? He said shipped. And the way they did it when he finally said it, and they're like, there's the two guys are fighting, and he's like, no, you forgot I used to be a cop too. Oh, but we'll just forget it and be friends. Okay, that sounds good. Oh, by the way, Jerry, you got some, on the side of your lip. and they're like, wow, so like mesmerized by this. Then of course the network, seeing what rings they got, starts doing it, putting in more and more. So gets to the point where it's getting boring now, right? But the way they tied it in was they made it, because it's called curse word, they made it was actually basically unleashing a plague, because too many was being said too many times.
Yes, exactly.
So that's how they tied it in, and pretty much got away with doing a show, being able to say it. And the final count was 152 times in about 23 minutes.
Whoa.
So, but like I said, as much as I'd like to talk about this more, just because the one vulgarity, like it is a little bit early in the afternoon, it's later at night, I might be a little bit more lenient. But at this point, just guys, look up the South Park TV show where it says it's called the S word episode, and it'll come up, no problem. So like I just wanted to mention that, just because you're right, with the envelopes being pushed, there's not much left to do, and now it's getting to the point, it's like, oh wow, it's like, there's almost no point in watching a movie anymore, because if they're able to do what they do on TV in the movies, then the movie's just like a 2-hour non-commercial thing you got to pay for when you can sell.
Exactly, and that's kind of the battle that's emerged between cable and having the upper tier channels push boundaries now. So they're basically doing everything that a movie does, so you don't really have that. And then having, the big three or network television try to compete with them in terms of, being a little edgy and pushing the envelope. I've been kind of shocked by ABC, who's been pushing the envelope a little bit with their shows, and it's kind of exciting because it's not what you would expect on a network show, but at the same time, if every network show starts competing with that, then everything is going to get stagnant, and it's all going to be the same, and it's going to lose its appeal of controversy.
Absolutely agree. I couldn't agree more. So yeah, it's I mean, it's just one of those things that, I mean, I know it's not the easiest thing to keep things fresh, but there are ways to do it without kind of beating a dead horse.
Exactly. And what I'm kind of enjoying is be edgy, do something, but don't be so explicit with it, because then you're still, you're kind of hinting. The hints kind of sometimes can still be a little more, oh, did that just happen? Than just blatantly putting it out there.
Just saying is all.
Yeah, just saying.
Yeah. But no, very, very, very true. Next up, let's get to your blogs you've been working on, and your past blogs you've done this past week.
Sure. Well, I'll kick it off by saying that I did the show on TNT, which is a revival of the old show from, I guess it was the 80s,
Yep.
and they brought it back. It's been on for a few seasons. It is a really good show. I definitely enjoy it. I definitely recommend it. It's something that blending a little old with the new, and I'm enjoying the show. So it'll come back in August. So they're kind of, it was a really short season, or half season, but they will be back, because I thought, man, I've been gypped. I mean, it felt like it just started. So it will be back in August, so I'm looking forward to that. It is a fun show, and it is kind of like a soap opera in that it blends together family and business, and trying to find that line between the two, something that I enjoy kind of having, because I think a lot of shows, it gets kind of procedural, and so people kind of lose sight of the family dynamic, and that's something that Dallas and really does integrate very well into the show. Then the interview for That Awkward Moment, which is a Zac Efron romantic comedy. Have you seen the advertisements for that?
I don't think I have, to be honest with you.
Okay, well, I thought it was going to be really good, and not so much. I do not know how, Miles Teller was really the reason I went. He's the guy who's in The Spectacular now, and I think he's got like a bunch of projects coming up. But anyway, I went, it was just, there is no way, I hope, that any girl would be attracted, especially with Zac Efron's character. He was so just immature and annoying and horrible. I just, he kept trying to do those puppy eyes. I was like, okay, go get a tissue and grow the hell up. Pardon my French, but it really did require that kind of visceral language. I apologize to the listeners. But yeah, it was a very disappointing venture. And then the movie Transcendence with Johnny Depp. Have you seen the promos for that?
Yes, I have.
Okay, it is better than people are saying, but there is a very frustrating angle to it. If you've seen the trailer, then you know that there is a anti-tech group that murders Johnny Depp so that he can stop making technological advances. The thing is that the trailer doesn't tell you is that there's actually a mass murder that takes place at the very beginning of the movie, along with Johnny Depp's assassination. And so the whole movie, you're thinking that there's going to be some kind of revenge, but everyone acts like they didn't really do anything wrong. They just killed some people. What's the big deal? That is a huge deal.
Yeah.
It was so morally irrelevant, the script. I just could. My mind was completely blown. It should have been blown away by and the special effects are very good, but that completely distracted from everything they were trying to do with the story. And I think the movie kind of got advertised as a Frankenstein, Frankenstein sci-fi film where there was going to be the end of the world, and that really is not. That's not really what the movie's about. It is an interesting meditation on technology and how people feel about it integrating into our lives more and more. I have my own personal opinions about that, but the movie didn't do a good job really articulating either side of the argument.
Fair enough.
So that was kind of my thing with that. Also, best new movie bets. What were the best two new movies to see? I said Amazing Spider-Man 2 and The Protector 2, which is a Thai martial arts film with Tony Jaa, and it is a sequel. Both are sequels, actually, but they all have two after them. But The Protector, I love the first one. I read mixed reviews. People saying it's not as good. I did see The Amazing Spider-Man 2 yesterday with a crowd of very eager fanboys. I have not seen that kind of reaction. I had to sit through all the Twilights for my sister, and I didn't see the kind of reaction from these girls as I did these guys were getting so into everything that was happening on the movie. I have to tell you, it was good. Have you seen the original?
Yes, I have.
Okay, what did you think of that?
I thought it was alright. I didn't think it was that good. I mean, like I like Spider-Man. I just like I think Tobey Maguire kind of killed it for me. So
Because he was so good?
Yeah, sure. It just the whole thing is Peter Parker. He's supposed to be a nerd, but not that much of a nerd. You know, and just like there's a lot of. I mean, I know they gotta stray a little bit, but I mean it didn't make sense to me. It's like he was a completely wrong person to start off with, and like the new one, it's not horrible, but I couldn't get that into it. I kind of did, but I was like, well. I don't know. I still watched the entire thing, but just like I wasn't as into it as I thought I would be. I think I hyped it up way too much.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I personally think that the lead actor, Andrew Garfield, is completely miscast as Spider-Man. It really, because of his performance, it all kind of falls flat. There are some other people who bring something vibrant to it, and one of the things was with the villains in this movie, Jamie Foxx playing Electro.
I know.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something?
No, I'm just saying. No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm sorry. Go on, continue.
Well, he's playing Electro. He is so sympathetic. I felt so bad for him before he transformed into Electro. He's just so sympathetic. Like, well, what's the guy really doing that's that bad? I mean, I know he destroyed some public property, but his whole descent into quote-unquote being a villain, he was just so, I felt so bad for him. He's socially awkward, and he's struggling, and people are ignoring him, and I think anybody who's felt that, invisibility in life can definitely empathize with his plight. So I just really felt like he needed maybe some counseling with his new powers and everything, but he just wasn't a villain. And then they brought in Harry Osborn, who was played by James Franco in the previous film, now being played by Dane DeHaan, who is an upcoming kind of an indie thespian. And he had the most obnoxious haircut of any. I've never seen a haircut that was as annoying as this guy's haircut. As many will probably remember who watched Heroes, there was a bang hair debacle with one Peter Petrelli. You remember when he had that piece of bang hair that kept falling into his eyes?
Yep.
Well, imagine that ratcheted up by like 110%, and you have this guy's hairstyle. It was so annoying. It kept coming into his eyes. I was like, dude, you're rich. They make a comment about him getting his hair done. I thought, why can't you afford a haircut? It was so annoying, and he had this really big emo hipster hybrid vibe. He was very angry at the world, and his and Peter's were like they were best friends, but we don't really know why or how too much. So that just completely fell bad, and I felt bad for Harry. He had a reasonable plight, but just like with Electro, but it just kind of all falls down, and you kept thinking towards the end the movie was going to end. Nope, it's got another 20 minutes.
Yeah, I just like I said, I'll probably watch the second one, but yeah, I wasn't too impressed with the first one, and it's like I just think they're starting to lose the battle with making these Marvel comic movies because they're some of them are falling flat, and just like I mean they've done well with some but haven't done well with others. No, the Hulk bombed twice and then finally worked in the Avengers, which was pretty decent, which I really liked the first one. So I mean, like, it was one of those things. If they played Hulk like with this guy initially and kind of did that kind of character, then the movie could have potentially done very well.
I agree, and I just think too, what you're kind of saying maybe is that they seem to feel like bigger is better, more villains, more heroes, more special effects, and no, that's really killing it. It kind of reminds me of not to bring everyone back to the 90s, but I watched this making of special at Melrose Place. Which I never watched the show, but I was kind of fascinated to hear the behind the scenes about it. And one of the things the guy who did the show had said was every season they felt like they had to make everything bigger and bigger and bigger, and the show kind of collapsed underneath the weight of its own expectations. And I feel like that is exactly what is happening to these superhero movies.
No, you're right. They're starting to suck, but I mean, we'll just hope they get better. But that is all the time we have for this Saturday. So thank you everybody for joining Britt and I for Bloggers Corner. We'll hope to see you our next Saturday. So until next time, Britt, like always, it's always a pleasure having you on.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, guys, we'll talk to you soon, which is tonight at 8 o'clock for New Music Saturday. So tune in then. Until then, thanks for listening. Bones out.